Good morning. Happy Saturday to you all. And good morning, Anne-Marie. How are you today?
Morning, Perry. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm just glad that we're both on today. Actually, we got home safely after that wet drive, which
Oh,
was a
that
big
was
thing,
a
wasn't
absolute
it?
nightmare. I know, I was traumatized.
It wasn't great. So today's show, what we're talking about today, so evening viewings and how you can wow your buyer with a warm welcome. Obviously, we're coming into the dark, cold nights, so get that warm welcome and get people on side.
Yeah,
So certainly, I think we've all noticed it, haven't we, after the clocks have gone back, that the nights are starting to get earlier, and viewings at home are happening really when it's not in the best light sometimes, and it's getting darker. And most buyers will come for their first look in the evening or on their way home. So instead of letting the sunshine in to make your rooms nice and bright, which obviously we can't do, autumn and winter are all about turning up that cozy feel, aren't they? So it's making it nice and welcoming for people to come into your home. And it might surprise you, but longer evenings are one of the advantages of selling. You wouldn't think that, but at this time of the year it is. Buyers get to feel just how snug your home is going to be after dark hours, something they rarely experience if they're looking in the spring or the summer. So it's a bit of a new twist to it. With that in mind, this week's blog is all about turning shivery cold and bleak into snugly warm and chic. That's what we're looking for. From irresistible first impressions to captivating interiors, nighttime garden magic, which is a big thing as well to light up the garden. You'll find all you need to set the stage for a perfect evening viewing. So that's kind of what the show is going to be about today. And Anne-Marie, I think we're both certainly feeling that that's where we're at with regards to people that want to view. There's that
yeah,
instant feeling of it's going to be dark and they're not going to see it in its best way. But there's nice ways that we can jazz that up a bit, isn't there?
yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, people are, they're not able to view during the daytime. It's after work, it's in the evening. So yeah, we do need to, so we need to encourage people to that first sense of arrival when
Yeah.
someone's first coming to view your property in the dark. I mean, the outside of your home is where people tend to linger because obviously they're just coming to the property. They're going to have a look at it from outside in the dark. So we need to make that really, look really nice, but give it its best first impression, should I say. So when you're meeting the agent outside, you're basically looking up the path at the property.
Mhm.
So you need to get them excited and, when they're stepping inside. So you need to have sort of like a handy checklist. Um,
I think that's really important actually, Anne-Marie, and that's what we
yeah,
tend to do, isn't it? I mean, as agents, I don't know how you do it, Anne-Marie, but certainly for myself, I make sure there that I am there way before the viewers coming, and it is
yeah,
really about that preparation time, because that first sense of arrival, that's it, isn't it? It's that first impression.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
want to really give that positive vibe as soon as they get there. So I certainly experience that, you'll experience that. So what would we do, Anne-Marie, in that kind of instance? What would you suggest people do?
Well, I mean, because it's dark now, it's all about lighting, for example. So you'd need to, you can get lights that come on a timer, say, for
Mm-hmm.
example. But the checklist I would go through really would be, scrutinize your windows and front doors. If there's any paintwork that needs brushing up, all those little details.
Mm-hmm.
Have a porch lamp, a hall light, as I said, on a timer to come on at dusk, and to ensure that the pathways are clear. We've got the leaves now. It's
Mm-hmm.
all sort of maybe a bit slippery. Make sure all that's nice and clear. Make
Oh,
sure,
see with the leaves, Anne-Marie, you're totally right.
yeah,
One of the things we loved it when we came to see our property in the spring when we purchased. There's a beautiful big tree at the bottom of the garden that the backing on neighbour,
yeah,
which does look lovely, and it's massive, and it's all the rustling, the sounds, and the sights and the colours. And when autumn comes, it turns.
yeah.
But the leaves, oh my goodness, they're everywhere. And they do cover the garden. And literally, it's a weekend job for Billy every weekend at the moment to go out there and clear it all up. We've got one of these blowing and sucking things, which is
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah, they're really good.
They're really
Yeah,
good, but actually, it's really important to do that. And I'm kind of turning because I'm looking at it just now, but it's really important to do that because you're right, it does jazz it back up again. Because when I look
yeah.
out my window on a Friday and the leaves are all over the grass and everything, I think, oh God, the garden looks a mess. And then I
Mm,
come home after like the show or whatever we're doing on a Saturday, and then it's all nice and clean again. It's just that canvas of
yeah,
nice and tidiness. And I think it speaks volumes as well as if you're looking after your garden,
yeah.
you're really telling people that you look after the house as well, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're never really going to see a really pristine garden, then the house doesn't reflect that. So no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then there's the danger element of it as well. They're slippery.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't want
Yeah.
anyone having an accident. That's again a first impression,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
or outside your house. Not ideal. Not
No.
ideal. And also plant life, you know, as you said about the tree when you were viewing your property, you know, always have some sort of plant life by the front door. You know, you can get pre-planted pots, you know, going to B&Q or, you know, any of those home places. So yeah, get some nice plant pots, put lovely flowers at the front door, make,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe wintry colours, you know, and ensure, and also ensure that the sign is outside as well, because when it's dark and you're trying to find a property, all right, if it's got a door number, that makes it a bit easier, but some properties don't have a door number, they have
That's
names.
true. Yeah,
So
that's true.
make sure your agent puts that sign out as soon as possible as it comes on the market. Make sure
You know,
that's
that's a really good point, actually, Anne-Marie, the for sale
yeah,
board. And I actually have done it, and you've probably done it yourself as well. I mean, we clearly, before it goes to market, we've seen the videos, we've seen the photos, we know the description, we've spoke to the client multiple times, but we might not have physically visited the property.
that's right. That's
And
it.
I've seen myself sometimes, you know, you've got your sat nav on, you're driving down the street and you're going, oh, gosh, which one is it? And you're not trying
Yeah,
to recognise the building. And the
yeah,
first thing I always see is our for sale board. And
yeah,
that's really your go-to. And then there's that kind of, for me as an agent going out, because you're planning what you're going to do with the viewing, there's
yeah.
that bit inside you that's that kind of sink of relief, isn't it? That you know that you've got there and you're in the right place.
That's right.
So
There
if
it
you're a
is.
viewer, yeah, if you're the viewer, though, that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, because we're just, you know, what we're going through, they're going through. So yeah, that's really important. So you
Yeah,
know exactly where the property is. And as
yeah.
I said, you know, you've got one shot at a first impression, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when your buyer arrives at your home. So it's really good to, you know, making that moment count. You know, it's hard to bring it back again sometimes, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
So
sometimes you can, but it's quite a rare event to bring it back, isn't it? Because
yeah,
they reckon that you literally have made your initial decision on a property 10 seconds after you've arrived or pulled up outside. So
yeah.
that's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember when we bought a property in back in England, it was actually a night viewing, and what
Mhm.
won it for me, what won the house over for me was the fireplace. They
Yeah.
had it on, they had the fireplace on, and it was that feeling, you know.
Hmm.
Couldn't really see the garden properly, but they had there was a conservatory, they had light, so I was able to see a bit of it, but at that point, just that feeling I got with the fireplace and it was just cozy and warm, I didn't even need to see the garden because I had already seen pictures online.
Yeah.
So that's really
Yeah.
important. And that first impression that I got, you know, stayed there. And I'd seen quite a few that day. And yeah, I just knew I wanted that house. And it was just
Mm.
that, just little things, you know, for your
But it's all
viewer.
those little things that add together to tick all the boxes, because
Yeah,
people will have watched the video, they'll have read the description, they'll have seen the photographs. They already have an idea in their mind what they're thinking. So they're coming with a plan to either tick a negative box or confirm a positive box that they've already put in their minds before they've even pulled up outside, aren't they?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, anything else? I mean, you know, the that factor, that X factor, should I say, for the properties when you're
Yeah,
viewing?
I think as we're saying there, I think the feeling of coming home is a big thing for people as well, because they really are. People move for a reason, don't they? We speak about this often with Jim and the team, don't we? That people have a motive reason for moving, and 9 times out of 10, if you're not an investor, of course, you're moving because you're looking for a home.
Yeah,
And that feeling of coming home is really what someone is looking for. I mean, the average person moves every 7 years.
yeah,
So 7 years is a long time to invest in something, isn't it? So you need to get it right. So I think that feeling of coming home is definitely what a potential viewer is looking for. So I
yeah,
think everyone's glad to get home when it's a chilly evening. I mean, I don't know about you, but last night driving home and all those, well, I really should have got a boat, because gonna need a bigger boat was probably the quote that we were looking for yesterday.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
was so relieved getting home. You know, you're driving, you've got that tenseness about you, haven't you? And
I
literally, as soon
know.
as I pulled up into my drive, that just sense of relief I felt to be home.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
definitely. It was awful, awful. I don't
yeah,
want to go through it again. It was almost on par with when it's snowing and you're sort of like trying
mm,
to navigate the ice. It was on par with that, you know.
it
And
was
yeah, yeah, it's not good.
definitely. So I think certainly people, when they come to view a house, they're looking for that. They're looking to be coming home and be glad to be there on a chilly and cold evening. And evening viewings are all about giving your buyer the same heartwarming sensations that we're feeling when we come home in the evening. So
Yeah,
you want them to step inside your front door, and feel a real positive vibe about the property. So for a successful start to every viewing, make sure you're covered some essentials. We kind of talk about 3 essentials really. So consciously or unconsciously, we all breathe in to smell the air when we walk into a property. We do it all the time, Anne-Marie, don't we?
Definitely, yeah. And that's part of it. That's all part of
Yeah.
it. The smells, the scents, everything.
Yeah, everything's about senses, isn't it? So when you're walking into someone's home, you first thing you do without even realizing you're doing it is breathe in. So you want to make sure you create an aromatic, heavenly smell in the room. I've got on the first thing I did this morning, even when I came down, because we had a bit of takeout tea last night, so you could kind of smell the aftermath of the tea from the evening before, and I thought, well, that's not nice. So I've got like one of these apple spiced little candles on, and I can actually smell it up here now in my office from downstairs, and the house smells great. So it is about kind of creating that heavenly smell, isn't it? Updating any reed diffusers as well. I don't know about you, Anne-Marie, but that's one of the things I forget sometimes. And then I walk by and I think, oh, I can't really smell that. And then you look at the bottle and there's nothing in it.
I know that happens all the time. But then there's sometimes when you think, can't smell anything. And then you look and it does still have a bit of liquid. But that's where you go nose blind when it's your own house. Because you're so used to it. So you do need to check that. But I know what you mean, though. You know, you look down and you think, oh, my God, how long has that been empty for? You know, so it's always
it's a good idea to certainly zest them up a little bit. So your diffusers or your candles, as I said, I've got mine on downstairs. It smells great. So you're kind of looking for natural smells of autumn and winter, like cedars and spruce and pine. I don't know, we're kind of coming towards Christmas, so I've got my spice and apple. I always think of that. I remember Mum, when we were growing up, she used to always have like this Christmas plate that she'd put like the scented acorns. You know, we used to get like hot prairie, but it was like the big pieces with the acorns and things. And that was always a really nice smell, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's that feeling again. It's just,
I mean, Dave actually makes a comment as well, and it's exactly what we're saying here. So the scents in a home become a lot easier to notice during the winter. And you're totally right with that, Dave, because you're in the house more, aren't you? And people are kind of, none of the windows are open, the doors aren't open. We do all those shows, don't we, about summer and spring with bringing outside inside and vice versa. But at this time of year, you're keeping everything closed because you want to keep the heat in the house as well, especially the cost of the bills at the moment.
It's actually the fact that the inside experience, you know, winter viewings. Definitely.
So I mean, that's one of the essential things that we would say. I think the second thing for me is, although we're all mindful of rising energy costs, as I've just said, your home should still be oozing a welcoming warmth to give your buyers an enjoyable viewing experience. Go for a minimum of about 19 degrees is what we would say within the property. So, you know, I tend to have mine set about 20, but, you know, they're saying around about the 19 mark if you've got candles and everything on as well, because it's that fine line, Anne-Marie, isn't it? I went to do a viewing the other day, and I really wanted to open the windows because when I went in, it was just too warm. So actually, and it was quite a big property. So the people that were viewing it, I mean, I don't think that it was an issue for them, but we're obviously professionals, so we're picking up on everything to make it the best viewing as possible, aren't we? But I certainly felt that it was too warm, and I thought if they come in and they're uncomfortable, they're not really enjoying the room and the experience of walking around the home, because they're going like this with the coats and they're, you know, and they're thinking about how uncomfortable they are. And then that's a negative emotion, isn't it? We talk about senses and emotion. That's a negative thing, isn't it?
It is, definitely, just like the other way around. I was at a viewing the other day and it was absolutely freezing. And it wasn't because it was an empty property. They just didn't have the heating on. And you know, because of, you know, the energy fuel rises and everything, I didn't really want to sort of say, actually, you know, you need to put the, you know, because obviously they just, the heating wasn't on and I wasn't having a good experience. It was a lovely property, but it was cold, and I could see that it wasn't really a good experience in that respect for the viewers. You know, because one of them actually made a comment, and but you know, it was fine. But yeah, you got the opposite to that as well. If it's too cold, you need to find that happy medium. As you said, about 19. That's throughout the house. That should be, you know, sufficient.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that that's a big thing as well, because then that viewer's experience of that house is, oh, that was cold. If I put the heating on, is the heating not on because it's too expensive to run? And then suddenly they've got all these negative questions coming in their mind, haven't they? That suddenly, actually, this is not the house for me because the heating's not on for a reason. Is it not working? Does it need servicing? Is it too expensive? Is it a hard house to heat? And it's all these negatives come about, don't they?
From that one thing, it's just, you know, can spiral to your thought process. So
It's all
yeah,
those little things, isn't it? I think that's why you really need to get that professional guidance on it. And but a lot of our sellers, they do like to do the viewings themselves. So really, that's down to us to perhaps influence and give them all those good tips, isn't it? In regards to
yeah,
how to make it work well, because we do it every day. It's second nature to us, isn't it?
yeah, that's right. That's right. They're not estate agents. They're just the homeowners that just,
Yeah.
it's not just about opening your door. Hello, come in. There's more to it than that. That goes into it.
Oh, definitely. I would say so.
Yeah. So it's for us to educate them with that, really, as you said.
Yeah, definitely. And I
Yeah.
think I think the third essential for me is making your viewers feel right at home, by leaving space on your hooks to hang their jackets, etc. I mean, I just made the comment there about that really warm house, and they were walking around with their coats. So it's a nice way actually to go in and say, "Oh, can I take your jacket?" And it's all. And I think we've got the freedom to do that again now because COVID, we're kind of coming out of it, and
Right.
I don't know about you, Anne-Marie, but certainly for me, when I'm going into people's properties, we're very mindful of it. And, people that are viewing, they're not opening cupboards and touching things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something that we would be the people opening doors and things like that. So it's not like the viewer is touching all parts of the house. But I think it's a nice point at this time of year to be able to say to them, can I take your jacket off? And on top of that, actually, at this time of year, you and I, all the team are doing it now. We've got the shoe covers in the car, haven't we? Because
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
that's a thing. I mean, look at that weather yesterday. If you're going to take a viewing at someone's house, not everyone necessarily wants to take their shoes off.
That's right.
But you
Yeah.
also don't want to just walk into someone's home with your wet, mucky shoes because it's
Yeah.
pouring rain or whatever, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I think being able to allow them to take their jackets off and put the shoe coverings on just
Yeah.
makes them feel at ease instantly as well. So then suddenly it's an enjoyable experience from the get-go as well, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to be struggling trying to get their shoes off,
Mhm.
to undo laces. It's
Yeah.
just not a good experience. So yeah, shoe covers are definitely the
Shoe
way.
covers are a good thing. I mean, I would always give people the option, say, would you like to take your shoes off or would you like to put shoe coverings on? Some
So do
people
I.
struggle, obviously, depending on your age or your physical abilities. Some people struggle to take their shoes off and on.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes not always practical because not all homes, when you go into them, have got like a little bench or seat or something by the front door. So, they're leaning on the wall and they're trying to get the
Yeah,
shoes off. And
I
it
know.
can be a bit tricky. So definitely it's about making sure that you're planning and you're organising around that. So many buyers make up their minds about a property before they've even been in it at all, as we said earlier on, about the fact
Yeah,
that they've done their homework. Some
that's
within
right.
seconds of stepping inside will know. And actually, again, Anne-Marie, you probably get it, but if you know your viewer, I can 9 times out of 10 tell instantly that they've come into the property whether it's going to be a good experience for them or not, just
Yeah,
by their
yeah,
initial reaction.
yeah. So do I. And I think it's our experience of doing viewings, and it's just the industry we're in. We've got that sixth sense, if you like. We
Mm-hmm,
know straight away, no matter how nice a house is or not. We know facial expressions, body language,
mm-hmm.
over polite. Oh yes, yes, because I always like
Yeah,
to ask a question. Oh, so what are your thoughts then?
yeah.
When you get that little pause before they
Mm-hmm.
answer, yeah, it's a no.
Yeah, yeah, you do get that instant impression, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
So I think with that, once they've made that choice, it can be tough to turn it around. And we said that earlier, didn't we? Kind of
yeah,
flipping them if they've got that negative is a hard thing. So it is wise to move to capture their hearts and their souls and the thoughts and feelings at that initial part of just stepping in the door. So
yeah,
you covered the outside, Anne-Marie. We've covered kind of the entrance and how they come in and that warm feeling. And those are the things really that are so powerful because actually they haven't even started going through the rooms yet. So if
yeah.
you've not got a positive vibe at that point, it
No,
is pretty difficult to then turn it around, isn't it?
yeah, definitely, definitely. You need to, yeah, it's hard, and you haven't even. You're still in the landing. You're still in the doorway, and all
Mm-hmm.
these things, all these negative things already. So, it is hard to turn it around. But you never know. Sometimes you can,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can, because they start walking through the house and think, actually, this can work, but they
Mm-hmm.
may not. So it's that first impression, Perry. You know,
It is, but I think it's also about your agent being able to allow them to visualize how they could live in the house. And
yeah,
certainly for me, I think a big part that I notice is if it's two people, obviously, and they're going to be living in the property together, if they start to speak about, oh, well, we could do this here and we could do that there, if you can see them start to talk about how they would live in that property, you start to then think, well, actually, that's a positive vibe because they are starting to think about that. But
Yeah.
actually, as an agent, not all people can do that because, especially if the property is occupied, it's not always that a property is not occupied. So, if it's got all of your things in it as a seller, it's important for the buyers, potential buyers, to be able to visualize how it would work for them.
Yeah.
As a seller, you love your house.
Yeah.
You're only selling it for a reason. Something in your life has changed that's making you sell it, but you love it and you're used to how it is. But everyone wants to utilize space differently, don't they? So it's
Yeah.
about how do the new potential buyer envisage it, that they would live in it. And that's why I think the agent is really great
Yeah.
in directing that and understanding the house and making sure that they can portray that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very important because some of the properties that when I'm doing viewings, I can tell that the viewer hasn't got the vision. They haven't got, so it's our job. And what I do as an agent, I will, I mean, some of the things I suggest may cost money, but I will say, if you remove this wall, if you don't actually need 3 bedrooms, you can remove this wall. You'll have 2 big bedrooms, and then on here, or sometimes it would be the kitchen and the dining room maybe share a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Knock that out, make it
Yeah.
all open. And, it's just making them see that because sometimes they don't. So it's just sort of putting that in their head, how it
Mm-hmm.
could look,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. And certainly I had that situation the other day. I was out to do a market appraisal. So I was doing a valuation of a property. And this one was a 3-bedroom, 2 reception room with a utility room.
Yeah.
And I went into the utility room and I thought, is this a utility room? Yes, it could be used as that, but actually it would work so much better as a home office. And that's a big thing today, isn't it?
Yes,
So I said,
absolutely.
so we kind of got to the end of the discussion with the client, and the client was saying, so is there anything you would suggest that I change, Perry? What should I do in preparation for being sale ready, as we would call it?
Yeah.
And I said, well, for me, I said, a little bit of a tidy up. The utility room, I said, that kind of maybe you could do with a little bit of a jig around. I said, or actually, I says, even maybe make that into your home office or something like that. I says, because that's a big thing for people just now looking for that working at home space.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I didn't even consider that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So it's about doing it in such a way that you're not offending, obviously, the person that you're meeting
Yes.
because it's their
Yeah.
home, but
Yes.
actually looking at from a potential buyer and what makes the sale get me the best result, if you like,
Yeah.
so that the house is ready the way it needs to be.
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
different situation with another property, as you know, the one along in Cellar Dyke down by the water.
Oh, yes.
And when we walked in that first entrance porch, and it was one of the things you thought was quite powerful, Anne-Marie, when you went to that property. When you walked right in the front door, they had the downstairs laundry and like a wet room, etc., which is ideal for like laundry and putting kayaks in and everything because it was really long.
Yeah.
And initially it was kind of open, and they were like, what should we do here? How could we change things? We were thinking of doing X or Y, and I said, well, actually, do you know what I would do? I said, if you've got a great joiner, I said, wouldn't be overly expensive because he'd be able to do it and knock one up in no time. I would put a stable door on there. I said, because then what you can do is fix the bottom part of it, open the top part of it, and let that room shine. And there was a big store unit down the side as well that they had kind of laundry items on. And I said, you've got a beautiful log burner upstairs. I would fill that with logs. So when someone's coming in, they're seeing right down that, they're seeing this fancy stable door, they're seeing all the logs for the fire. And it's that emotive thing of feeling, oh, this is nice and cozy. Wood, fire, heat, warmth. It's all those things that were coming at that time of year that we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And the beauty of that is that they took your advice on board. By the time I went along there, she was showing me exactly what you suggested, how she's done it. And, so when I went there, it was like, oh my God. So it was all sort of like your ideas. I mean, you don't have to take your agent's advice, but in this particular instance, they did, and it actually worked wonders for them, didn't it?
It really did.
Yeah.
So I think it's about that as well. And we talk about, capturing their hearts and what have you. And I think for me, that really did that with that property. So it's about all those little changes that actually don't need to be overly expensive.
That's right.
I think this is a good thing as well that David mentions. So David says here, the emotive connection and flexibility of use is a key factor of space. And that's really true. And that's just what we're demonstrating there about how you can really maximize it. And what potentially has become a kind of neutral space suddenly becomes a valuable asset within the house, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You don't want to waste that.
So what else would be your kind of suggestions in regards to what someone can do next to get themselves kind of sale ready for their viewers coming, Anne-Marie?
Well, as we mentioned before, lighting. So, the seductive power of light.
Hmm.
We hardly ever turn lights on during the summer months, viewings in the summer. But lighting truly does, come into its own during the autumn and winter. The way your home is lit, it can transform how it feels. And even a quick change to softer tone bulbs, that can really elevate a room.
Mm.
It really makes a difference than a big, powerful overhead light on.
Do you
You
know,
want
it
to
really does.
ambience. When
Mhm.
you
It
when you're
really does, Anne-Marie. We've got a standing lamp that was in my lounge, and it's got quite a big head on it. And I thought it's just too big in this room.
yeah,
And we moved some furnishings out of I've got like tall boys in my bedroom, and we moved them out just to make more room in the bedroom. And then I thought, I like them out, but actually now the bedroom looks empty. So I actually ended up taking the standing lamp upstairs, and it's looked great for a couple of months because
yeah,
I've never had to really put it on because it was just ornamental. But now I'm
yeah,
having to put it on. Last week we put it on, and I was like, whoa, it's just way too bright. So I did exactly what you suggested, and I got the kind of warm light bulb instead. So just
yeah,
took that glint out and went for a lower kind of wattage. And what
yeah.
a difference it's made, because it's kind of got a warm glow when you go in. So even though there's no heating in the room, when you put the light on, it felt warm and cozy.
It felt warm, yeah, because it's that feeling, not physically
Hmm.
or cold, but that feeling again, the
Yeah.
first impressions. I mean, as I say, lamps are much cozier than
Hmm.
overhead lights. Um, so yeah, again, get them on a timer, when it gets dark, to give your viewers that warm welcome in each
Hmm.
room.
Hmm.
You could also instruct your agent thoroughly on special lighting to avoid any fumbling around in the dark or making it look complicated. So I know I've done a few viewings where I've spoken to sellers and they've said to me, okay, before you go and do the viewing, if you could just come in a bit earlier, and I'm just going to show you how to turn this on and how to turn that on. Because sometimes it's not as straightforward as just walking up to a lamp and turning it
Hmm.
on. They've got
Yeah.
it sort of a central point that actually makes things come on a timer, etc.
Yeah.
So they've given me that instruction. So that I'm not trying to fumble about trying to do on the viewing, because you don't
Yeah.
want to see anything complicated. You just want it to be a nice, smooth
Hmm.
experience,
Yeah.
basically.
One of
you
the
know?
things that we did, and you talk about timers there, and I mean, we say this all the time, it's part of our whole marketing strategy, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
everything is on that,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
right.
actually the timers, Billy's just done brilliantly. So he has got some timers that actually you can download an app and work them from your phone.
Yeah.
We've got them on some of our heating systems. We've got them on our lights. We've got them on our skybox. We've literally got them on everything. And then literally you download the app, and then you can actually just click it and turn it on from your phone.
Yeah.
So, even as a homeowner, if you know viewings are taking place and you've got that kind of setup, which wasn't expensive, I think Billy ordered them on Amazon. So, they weren't,
Right.
it was not like an expensive kit.
Yeah.
Um, but it's great because actually I'll be halfway home and I would think, oh, right. And then you can, if you're stopping at the shop or whatever, I'll come out of the shop and I'll go click, click, click. So when I then pull into my drive, it's all nice and cozy and warm. And
Yeah.
it's so good to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. That is definitely a good asset, a good thing to have for,
Mm.
in the winter months, definitely when you're doing viewings. Yeah. Yeah. So you don't even have to rely on an agent to do it. Do it
No,
yourself when the
you
viewing's
can.
taking place. You might want to leave your home to give them, that sort of time to do the viewing. But yeah, just control that yourself. Everything's on a
Mhm.
phone now. Modern
Absolutely.
times. And you've also got so a firelight has a unique and unmistakable quality. So if you have an open fireplace and you'll be home before the viewers, get it crackling in time for when
Mm.
your viewers arrive. As I said earlier, I had a viewing, a property we were marketing, and that was one of my jobs, to get there about 15 minutes before, get the fire going. And everyone that walked through that door for that viewing, that was a vocal point. They loved it, and that house went like that. I'm sure it went to a closing date
Yeah.
actually, and it was probably maybe
Mm.
down to that. I mean, it was a beautiful house. Don't get me wrong, and it was in the winter months as well, so people can see how
Mm.
they can live in the property. Yeah,
That's the thing. It's
yeah.
about giving them that vision of how they would live in it and how they would come home. The one that we had at Cribs was beautiful for that as well. Their
Oh,
log burner. Oh God, that room when you went into it was just beautiful. I mean,
yeah,
the new owners are just going to love living there. I know they are. But when you walked into that room and that fire was crackling, when I
yeah,
went out to do the valuation on that property, they had the fire going, and I thought, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't need to educate you on anything because I just went in and it was just amazing. You know, it was a great experience. I was like almost kicking my shoes off, just sitting up.
I know.
It does make a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And there's also another tip as well. I mean, you could speak to your estate agent about twilight photography to give your, online listing an eye-catching and memorable injection of evening magic. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not all about the sunlight and south facing and
Mm-hmm.
um, the evening twilight is can be just as magical.
It
Just
can, especially
yeah,
if you're lighting up the garden with items as well. With that particular property we were just speaking about, they did the same. So they had some great, we've got some great photos of nighttime when the garden was all lit up as well. So again, it just gives that different experience of what the property might look like, mightn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Dave
yeah.
Dave's coming forward with lots of great ideas today. So Dave's also asking another question. So he's saying, would you advise audio stimulation, so like music in the background, etc.? Actually, it's a really
Definitely.
good point. And I have never actually done it when I've been to a property. But having said that, when I bought the house I'm currently sitting in, and when Billy and I came to do the viewing, the sellers had actually put some vinyl music on and it was playing in the background, and I was walking around the house and I can hear the music and everything, and I was like, oh, quite like this. I've not experienced this before. This was a bit different. And it definitely added to my positive vibe about the house when I came in it. I would
Yeah.
say that was a big tick box. So it's a good question, Dave, and actually it does work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We had a house in Cooper we were marketing. I think it could have been last year, and one of the instructions that the seller gave me to do was turn the lamps on in the bedroom. All these different instructions, but one of the instructions were to put on the CD player.
Mm-hmm.
So he
Yeah.
had it set. He said, you don't have to do anything. Just touch that button. Then and it really created a really lovely atmosphere as we were walking around. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the first time I've had to do that, and it's the last time. I've never experienced that again with any other viewings, but it really worked. And it could be something that we could even suggest, for
Mm-hmm.
to some of our sellers, because it really was lovely. The ambience, the smells. I turned the candles on.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I got there a bit earlier to do all these things. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and again, that property didn't last long at all. And it could have been those little things there, but I was impressed with that.
Yeah, but we talk about that often, isn't it? It's all about the senses and the emotions, and it's sight, sound,
Yeah,
smell.
yeah, all the
And those are
senses.
the three things really that we've already spoken about, aren't we? So it does
Yeah,
add to that. That's
yeah,
definitely something I totally forgot about that moment actually when I came into here till Dave said that. So something
yeah,
to think about, Anne-Marie. Maybe I have to have a discussion about that on Monday about how we
yeah.
would approach that and introduce that to what we do.
Yeah, because it was a really good thing. And on that note as well, in terms of evening viewings, it's nice to keep your curtains open. So
Mm-hmm.
you're showing off your windows, and and it's extending beyond your rooms into the dark moonlight. That is
Mm-hmm.
also a nice look as well. Instead of the curtains closed, keep them open.
Yeah.
You can't see much, but if there's a moonlight, or some sort of lights that you've got maybe in the garden that may reflect on the windows, as that's another really good tip for night viewings, evening
Mm-hmm.
viewings, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, is there anything else on that note with
Yeah.
evening viewing, Perry? I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
mean we've talked about the light, haven't we? We've talked about the
yeah,
warmth. I think a warm taste of toastiness is definitely something that we're looking for. And I'm not talking marshmallows, although they're quite nice, but it might be a bit messy. But I think every room in your home can be a cozy heaven for evening viewings, whether you use it every day or only occasionally. We'd certainly give you some tips about how to kind of maximize that room and get that snuggle factor, because I think everyone's looking for that snuggle factor when they walk into a room. And one of the big things, again, we've got the two right people on the show today, actually, Anne-Marie, because this is all about accessorizing. So this is right
yeah,
up our street.
yeah, definitely. All the throws and rugs, and I mean, I've got them all year round. Actually, I love all that.
Yeah.
All the accessorizing, and it just make there's you need your home to feel like a home, not just
Mm-hmm.
somewhere where you sleep and
Yeah.
go back out to work again. You've got to have that's my personal opinion. I love all that. And you look forward to getting through your door, especially in this time of the year, you know, getting through your
Yeah,
door. You've got all
I
these
agree.
lovely, yeah, definitely the
Yeah.
smells, but yeah, all the textiles. I mean, I practically live in, there's a shop I used to go into that had all that. I remember when it was new. Oh, I can't remember what it was now, but it sold everything from lamps, candles, bed linen,
So
all
it
the
was like
lovely.
Dunelm Milne, something like that.
Yes,
Yeah,
Dunelm.
Dunelm. Yeah,
Little
yeah.
plug
I
for
love Dunelm.
Dunelm.
Yeah, I love Dunelm, but B&M's, Home Bargains, all
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be expensive. And actually, one of the places at this time of year, well, actually two of the places at this time of the year, and I'm going there after the show, I've got a viewing, and then I'm going to go and do my shopping. But I love Aldi when they do their special lane, and you get
yes.
that little thing. The only thing with Aldi though is that if you see something, you've not got time to think about it. You make a decision there and then you're buying it or you're not. Because if you go back the next day, it is gone.
It's not there. I
Yeah,
know.
it's
It's another
gone.
one. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Aldi's like that, you know. Yeah, you've got to buy it. You've got to make that decision.
Yeah,
And they're
definitely.
just as good as Dunelm and
Yeah,
B&M, you know, just as good. It's just that it's not consistent. That's the only thing.
that's the thing. But again, we're talking this from the perspective of a seller as well. So the seller doesn't want to be going to Laura Ashley and things like that and
Yeah,
spending a fortune on cushions and throws and all that kind of thing. So, you just want something to stage it a little bit, isn't it? And staging is so important. I
yeah,
don't know if you follow Linda Ann-Marie, but Linda Martin, she flips properties, and Linda just absolutely stages properties beautifully. And
yeah.
it's
I
literally
do
all
like
those little
it.
things. And yeah,
Yeah,
and it's about what we say. It's about that kind of layering up on the textiles and
yeah,
your cushions,
yeah,
blankets, throws, putting them over the armchairs, sofas, beds.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
it just makes it look really great, doesn't it? And you can actually do
yeah,
that inside and still outside as well, because again, you want to get that flow through. So you said, Anne-Marie, about keeping the curtains open. Just because it's dark, keep the curtains open, because if you've lighting outside and you've
yeah,
got like a little lounge sitting area, it's still nice. You're not keeping them out all the time, but you can just put them out for that viewing point so that people can see how they could live there and how they
yeah,
could use the
yeah.
space, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get people that, you get smokers, for example, even in the middle of winter, they're in their garden, they're
Mm-hmm.
outside, you still want to feel like you're at home when you're
Yeah.
outside. Like, it's an extension of your home.
Mm-hmm.
I believe a garden. So lovely garden furniture, maybe waterproof cushions and covers.
Mm-hmm.
You can get
Mm-hmm.
those as well. So you can actually have them on display. So yeah, I do believe a garden is actually an extension of your house. And
Yeah, I agree
as I
completely.
said, yeah, I spend a lot of time in my garden throughout the whole year, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think in regards to other textiles, rugs, if you've got bare flooring, so tiles or wooden flooring, then certainly rugs are there. They give a kind of warmth, acoustic atmosphere and a good atmosphere about it as well. And actually it makes your
yeah,
furniture look quite sleek. So,
yeah,
if your sofas and tables, your lamp tables and whatnot are kind of slightly off the floor, it's great to kind of see underneath as well. So it just gives that flow of additional space, doesn't it?
yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. It's all those little things. So if your carpet's a bit, well, if your towels are a bit threadbare, if you know you've got a viewing taking place, just replace them. Even if you just buy these fluffy towels just for viewings.
Yeah.
Make sure that, because sometimes you may not want to have them there all the time or what have you. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just your towels, bath mats, just make sure everything's nice and like a show home. If you
Yeah.
go into a hotel, for example, and when you enter the room of a nice hotel or guest house, nothing's threadbare.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's like not exaggerated, but it's all nice and soft and fluffy, and that's what you want to see. And that's
Yeah.
what I would suggest for any viewing.
You want to just continually give like that luxury feeling, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
what you're looking
love that
for.
feeling. Yeah,
I think even when you go into a kitchen, I think it's quite nice. And I do see this quite often. In the summer, you used to see it quite a lot where people would have like big chunky glass vases, but they'd fill them with lemons and limes and things. Because then again, that's giving you the view of kind of maybe chopping it up for cocktails and going out to the garden. But you don't want
yeah,
to. And that's a very summery thing, isn't it? But
yeah,
I think at this time of year, what would be great is, even if you've got like little open baskets and you put root vegetables in them and pumpkins and
yeah,
squash or sweet potatoes or something like that. It's just nice to see all that kind of warming wintry they're
yeah.
all things you associate with being cozy and warm and having a
Yeah.
nice something to eat, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's all about, mindset and how you're making someone feel, the visual. Can they live in the property? Can they see themselves in it? It's lifestyle, isn't it? As well.
That's exactly what you're selling. It's lifestyle. You're spot on with that, Anne-Marie, actually. But I think it's really important as well, if you've got kind of cold and empty corners in a property, that you instantly give it a lift with something. So, that can be plants, stylish pots, something, it doesn't need to be expensive. One of the things that I saw on Aldi's last week actually is they've got like 3 kind of like a tripod wooden legs on them, and it's a little kind of ceramic pot, and then they had a nice bit of artificial grass thing in them. And again, if you're just putting something like that in a corner, you're not spending a great deal of money, but you're just jazzing up a little bit of a space. This time of year as well, we're talking about lighting. I've got a big glass vase in it, and when I go to Silverburn Park, if I see whole ones, I pick up like the acorns.
Oh,
So I've been filling it with acorn. Each time I go, I get a couple of acorns, and I've been putting the acorns in this big glass vase, and I've got some kind of nice lit twigs in it and things like that. And it's just a nice thing in the hallway that actually has cost me nothing and has been a little bit of an adventure and memory things. And if the boys come along as well, they kind of will say, "Oh, that's a good one," and pick it up, and it goes. So it's little experiences like that people visualize they can do when they're living there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And as you said, and it's inexpensive, doesn't cost you anything, just comes from the park, so which is a good thing. No one really wants to spend loads of money. You don't have to. That's your point, really. You don't have to spend money for these lovely little touches that people appreciate on a viewing. No, absolutely.
So what else is there? We've got kind of the magic potentially of Christmas coming. So as a final tip, put your Christmas decorations up as late as possible, people. I know I've seen some folk already got them up, but if you've got people coming to view your property at this time of year, and I had a wee look at Zoopla this morning, by the way, just as an information share. So in Fife, as of literally 5 to 9, before Anne-Marie and I were preparing for the show, on Zoopla, there are 970 people currently selling a house in Fife. So don't be putting your Christmas tree up yet. Because it looks great for you. But if you can hold off entirely and just start with small things like candles, the candle bridges that you get, putting them in windows, or cute little Danish niche figures or something like that, then go do that rather than go full on Monty with like the festive decor. Because actually, while it looks great for you and it's nice and cozy for you, someone coming into the home, they're walking into your living space and this big tree is there, and then all your knickknacks are around. It can look a little bit cluttered. It's beautiful for us living in it. But for someone coming to the potential of utilizing space, it can look quite cluttered, can't it, Anne-Marie?
Yeah, definitely. That's too personal. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some decorations are beautiful, they're lovely, but it's still a personal thing. That isn't for a viewing. Definitely not. I totally agree with that, Perrie. Maybe little things. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, when it comes nearer to Christmas, viewings cease to a halt anyway. Most of the time, that would be the time to get it all done as close to Christmas as possible, because we probably wouldn't really be doing many viewings around sort of closer to Christmas. So,
well, you say that, Anne-Marie, but we sold the house on Christmas Day last year.
Actually, yeah,
and on New Year's Day.
Yeah, you're right.
Some people do it, but just draw back a little bit on the Christmas tree would be my recommendation. There are other ways of getting light into a property, though, Anne-Marie, isn't there? So the magic of nighttime in the garden. What would you suggest people do with their gardens at this time of year, Anne-Marie?
Well, the thing is, I mean, it's not just gardens. You've got balconies as well. You can. I mean, with balconies, you can decorate them and dress them up as well, because it's still outside, part of your property, but it's still, outside. So you can get, sort of autumn features, a bit like what you're talking about in your property, night lights. One of the most valuable assets in any home really would be, the nice light outside of the property. Fortunately, you don't need the bright skies glistening, because winter viewings are just completely different as what we're actually talking about. But you can still create a really glorious space, that buyers would, really sort of love and appreciate on a viewing.
I agree with you. I think that you don't really need to have that bright blue sky, as you say. You don't need to have glistening grasses or summer sunshine to create as you say, that glorious space. There's other ways that you can make that and give it high kind of prize in the view of a viewer, isn't it? So
Yeah.
what would your suggestions be around that, Anne-Marie?
I mean, you can use lighting to add some evening sparkle, from bulb chains strung overhead to, solar panel lanterns. I think that's beautiful, actually. That's such a lovely look. And then you've got the stakes that you can actually stick into the garden. They're solar powered. Permanent fittings with soft toned bulbs. I mean, all these things just look just as nice, just in the winter months instead. Garden furniture, as I said earlier, if you've got a sheltered spot, leave it on show, leave your furniture on show, but just dress them with waterproof blankets, cushions, to create that cozy and comfortable outdoor feeling. As I said, some people are outside as well as inside the property, so it just needs to be an extension of your house. Same cozy feeling. So that's with.
I think it's a big thing as well with the lights. When you talk about the solar lights, I think for me that's a big thing. If you're pulling up to someone's driveway as well, just maybe having them in the walkway, because as you say, it could be dark still. Yes. So if you've got them up the walkway as well, it just gives that warm ambience as immediately you come in. I've got a friend of mine who has big lanterns outside her front door with chunky candles in. She doesn't light them all the time, but if something special is happening, then she'll light them in the evening. And if you pull up outside and it's just like, oh, I want to get in there, it's that feeling of it. This is going to be fun and it's going to be nice and it's going to be cozy.
Again, it's
got a positive vibe. It's a feeling it creates before you've even walked in the door, isn't it? It's that kind of, for me, I think your sense of smell and your sight are the two things that really work for me more. Sound maybe comes later, but for me, it's those two of the three senses that motivate and drive me to something. And then the sound would kick into me later on as a kind of after.
The sound is like, that'd be like a bonus, but those are the other two main senses. No, you're absolutely right. And as we mentioned before as well, the leaves on the floor, make sure they're swept once a week, or however often you need to, but especially when you've got a viewing, make sure that's all cleared and out.
That's a big thing.
It is a big thing, definitely.
Even for me, I'm not in that process now, but for me, even when I'm looking outside, it's just so much nicer when it's tidier, and it's hard to not have it ready, isn't it? But the garden furniture piece that we spoke about earlier as well, I think garden furniture, having that in shelter spots is a good thing, but leave it on show and dress it up, as we said earlier on, get those waterproof blankets on and the cushions to create a cozy and comfortable room outdoors. Last year was the first of me seeing these. I don't know if it's been a thing before last summer, but I certainly haven't seen it before. But you get those outside waterproof rugs as well. So I've got a couple of good ones that I just put under my coffee table when I redid my deck and painted the decking black, which is a bit unusual, but actually it works. And then I put this kind of grey rug on it, and then my table on top, and it just looks fantastic. And it was inexpensive. I got my one on Amazon, but Home Bargains and everything like that were selling them, and they're great. And it's all those little things that just add that additional spark to a place, isn't it? Because people do want to have garden, and people do want to be out there. People who want balconies, it's slightly different. Obviously, you can't put those things out there, but as you say, you can put lanterns around it, you can put nice pots of plants in it, so it still feels like a garden space when you're looking out, isn't it?
A garden space, definitely, absolutely. And it's it's just really important to make sure that these things are in place on a viewing. People want to see that as well, And as you said earlier, when you see the garden is all nice and kept, when you're going into a property, from the garden looks lovely, you just really want to get in and see the house as well. So that's why it's really important for it to reflect each other, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. So I think keeping garden or balconies in bloom is a big thing. Actually, I can't believe it, because I had summer geraniums and I had bright red ones, and I've still got a pot, and it shows you how mild it's been. I know the last couple of days has been horrendous with the rain and everything, but it's been so mild that actually I've still got big bunches of red flowers on them. I can't believe it in middle of November. But I had it sitting at the back of I had it at the patio, you can't really see from the windows. And I thought, that's such a shame it's sat in that corner. So I brought it forward into where my patio doors are. So when I walk in through my lounge into my dining kitchen, I can see it through the doors, and you've got this kind of lovely splash of colour. So again, it's a really good thing to do that. And you get all the kind of winter violas and things like that, and pansies. So they always bring a nice bit of colour and bloom. So I think that's a really important thing to have as well, if you've got kind of visuals and you're seeing that from a property. Pansies, camellias, I've never really had those, but I'm sure they're lovely and colourful. And it's just about kind of zoosing it up a little bit because it's that darkness all the time, and it looks quite nice when the light's shining on it as well. And if you've got like little garden ornaments outside as well, again, all these stores that we've spoken about, stock them.
Yeah, that's right. They're also inexpensive. You could make your house like a show house on a budget, honestly. And you know, you could go expensive, as you said, Laura Ashley or what have you, and it probably wouldn't even look as good, you know? It's how you put it together. It's all how you put it together. And if you're not, the thing is, as a seller as well, if you're not sure, if you haven't got that eye, because not everyone's creative like that. You know, you may have a friend or a neighbor or a family member that's really good at that sort of thing. Maybe get them round to give you a hand to, you know, just get some ideas.
An agent.
Or an agent. Or an agent. We'll be happy to help. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think, you know, gardens or balconies in the summer are a big thing, aren't they? But they can be a great thing in the winter months as well when it's dark. So I think, again, leave photos on tables or pin to the fridges so your viewers can see how wonderful it did look in the summertime. I was out doing a valuation the other day, and the gentleman had done what we said, and he'd done all the leaves and whatnot in the garden. I thought the garden looked nice. He said, "Oh, I just wish you had been here in the summer though, Perrie. You should have seen my borders and my pots and my baskets, and everything looked great." And I said, "Yeah, but it still looks nice now though, and you're giving us the opportunity to visualize what the summer would be like." And he still had kind of winter look plants, etc. there, but it was still a really nice view and a warming and welcoming garden because it was tidy and the leaves were away and all the things that we've spoken about. So it doesn't need to be all about the flowers. You can still make it great with all the other suggestions that we're putting forward. And if you don't put a Christmas tree up, because we said not about putting Christmas trees up, you can put maybe outdoor lighting that kind of makes it look a little bit Christmassy, can't you?
Yeah, you can do that, just as long as it's minimal.
not inflatable Santas and things like that.
No. Nothing like that. No. But so getting back to sorry, I was just going to say, getting back to what we spoke about with summer gardens in the winter, it is a good idea to take a picture, because this man's saying to you, "Oh, you should have seen it in the summer." It might be an idea to make sure you have pictures around the place, so you can actually, because you may not always capture that in the brochure, that the pictures and videos that we do, because that could have been done in the winter. So take pictures of your own to show. And if you're not there yourself when a viewing's taken place, you know, you can have a nice picture in a frame or a fridge magnet on the fridge, just so that you can actually see it what it looks like in the summer as well. So that's another good tip, actually. You know, you can see. Yeah. I think that's another good tip. But yeah, this is such a good thing, because I don't think people think about winter. I mean, when you think of winter viewings, first thing you're thinking is, oh, it's going to be dark, you're not going to see anything, very negative. But I think this is a very positive light we've put on it, Perrie.
Yeah, I think so. And I think next steps as well, you know, with all of the tips that we've given, I think for someone who is either selling just now or contemplating selling, staging your home for the perfect evening viewing, it's essential, and it will help you capture the hearts of the buyers when they step inside your house from the cold and the dark. What you want to do is make them come back again. What we have found, certainly in the summer and spring months, Anne-Marie, not so much, because people see the house in all kind of shades of light, because they've probably driven round the house anyway before they've even come to view it. They've seen the videos, you know, we've got our walking, talking videos that we do. So how many times we've got feedback from people saying, actually, I feel like I've already been in it because of the way you present the video. So we've had people buy houses just from the video, haven't we, as well? They've never needed to view it. It's not really what this topic's about, but, you know, we want to set you up for viewing. But in the summer months, they tend not to necessarily need to come back again. In the winter months, what we tend to find is people will want to have a second viewing, irrelevant of the fact. And I certainly, over the last 2 weeks, I don't know if you found this, Anne-Marie, over the last 2 weeks, I have certainly done more second viewings than I've ever done before.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Yeah. And they do need to see it again in a different light sometimes. No, I've found that as well, Perrie, in this, you know, climate. They just want to go back again.
Yeah, I think they do want to go back again. But what you're doing with that first piece, because let's be honest, everyone's working, so they probably have come to see it at the end of their working day. So you want to capture their hearts when they first come in the door. You want them to come in from the cold and the dark and feel that it's a really positive environment, so that they will want to come back and see it in the daylight. You've already done the hard part by showing them at the kind of end of a day what a property's like. For them to come back in the daylight and see it's a really positive thing. I did a viewing during the week at a property, which is a gorgeous property that we've got down at South Croft on Links Road. And the viewers came towards the end of the day and they loved everything about it. But it was a case of, we'll go around the front, I'll show you where all the kind of things are in the local vicinity. So we kind of went up the driveway, back down the driveway, and I was pointing out the beach and the golf course and how they can access everything from the property, because it's right on the beach,
Yeah.
with a 2-minute walk type thing.
Right.
But we did that, and then we went into the property, and I says, now we'll go out to the garden. We would always end at the garden, wouldn't we? But we had to start at the garden, because otherwise they wouldn't have gotten to see it, because the darkness, dusk was just starting to come.
Yeah,
so we did that, and then they loved everything about the house, the garden, etc. But they want to come back and see it again. Of course they do, because they want to see, well, when the sun's coming up, what does it look like? Where does it shine? How does it feel? What does the inside feel like? Does it light up the rooms, etc.? So you definitely are seeing that people want to come back a second time.
Yeah, because it is a different feel, isn't it? As much as we're talking about the winter, autumn feel, sometimes they do want to get that daytime feel as well.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So last thing from you then, Anne-Marie, what would your kind of thoughts be to share with anyone?
Well, as we were talking about, visual and the sense of smells, make sure as a seller that you've got that nice sort of smell. Maybe get some candles, diffusers, make sure they're all up to date, because it's all about that first impression as you step through a door. Soft lighting, but for me it would be the sense, the smells. Make sure all that's sort of happening, and the warmth as well. Not too hot, not too cold, as we were saying. Maybe around 19. Keep it sort of a nice neutral temperature. And that's what I take away from it.
Yeah, I would be the same. I mean, for me, it's really about finding the right ideas, filling up the corner of the home. Actually, in the show, if you're kind of catching up with it later or on the podcast, we have put a piece in here as well about the magic moments and how to capture that about your house and how to dress it. But if you want to get in touch with us to talk about it further, we're more than happy to do that. But it is about staging the scene, isn't it? And setting that idea in a property. And that pretty much is it from us. If you've got any questions afterwards, or you're listening this to podcast, then please do reach out. Anne-Marie, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really enjoyed it. The first time it's been us on a solo act.
I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. Thanks, Perrie.
No problem. And thank you very much, everyone. Have a great Saturday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.